My Lords, I rise to talk on this set of amendments, and I feel as if I'm on my own, because whilst I agree absolutely with the need for SuDS, sustainable urban drainage systems, and of course they've got a wonderful role for smaller style developments, ones and twos, when you're miles away from the mains in rural areas. They are obviously the way to go. In fact, oftentimes they're the only way to go. But I cannot see for the life of me how promoting SuDS and accepting these amendments is going to be proportionate. When we're not just talking about connecting 10 or 15 homes, we're building 1.5 million. We are never going to solve the housing problem by connecting 1.5 million homes to SuDS. We've got to connect them to the mains. It's the only way forward. And
that's what Schedule 3 does.
yeah, but I've got a very. I'm concerned with listening to this, because we're going to let the water undertakers, the sewage firms, off the hook if we're not careful. Well, I've looked carefully at the amendments, my noble friend. Look, because it seems to me.
Sorry, carry on. Yeah, they shouldn't interrupt.
Oh, so yeah, they're right. So look, because this whole bill is about speeding up development. We've got to get these homes going, and it seems to me that we're potentially having the perverse incentive that that we're going to fix the sewage. We're going to allow, rather, the sewage treatment firms to have a veto over new development. If the sewage treatment works, and the operators of the water undertakers are going to be the tail that wags the dog. If they're saying, well, we haven't got enough capacity, therefore you can't connect, no new homes will be built at all, and I'm really concerned about this. I went to the World Heritage Site at Iona in Scotland, and their sewage treatment works are at capacity, and so we've ended up with a situation where the visitor centre was then forced to have its own package system that drained straight through that the public areas, making it worse. We're in a situation in Norfolk where Anglian Water is saying their sewage treatment plants are at capacity and they cannot contemplate any new homes. They're the blockers. 40,000 new homes in the Greater Norwich area, as well as other areas, are now at risk. So far, so much for speeding development. It's going to slow it down, because this gives them a get-out, a perverse incentive not to invest in what they should be doing, whilst taking the money from the business rates and so forth. And in aggregate, we're going to end up with more polluting package systems rather than connecting. And that's no good for places like in my own area, at Porringland, where there's clay there and the drainage is really poor. Now, this is really important, because by promoting a multiplicity of much smaller package systems, rather incentivising the main sewage providers to invest, we're going to avoid scale. And that's important, because we need the larger, better structured sewage treatment works brought up to scratch, because it's only then that they address the phosphate problem. And phosphate is very difficult to do in a package system, because you've got harsh chemicals, you've got to wear face masks and gloves and all the health and safety paraphernalia. It's got to all be kept very carefully handled. And this is where you get the economy of scale. And this is what we should be encouraging. So, and then there's also the other point about having, if you're going to allow the sewage company to say, well, no, we think we're full now, you can't have any more, and we end up with more schemes, of the small package schemes. There's the smell, they're unreliable, they're expensive to maintain, it's difficult to get them adopted, it's really difficult. So I'm really concerned that 198, and I don't want to put the black spot on entirely, but I think it needs to be improved, because I think we're going to end up with a perverse situation where there's a lack of capacity. We're incentivising the sewage treatment companies, the water companies, to take it easy rather than go the extra mile. And this is not some theoretical risk. in Heacham, I'm going to refer to Norfolk now, in Heacham, Docking, Snettisham, Horsford, Brancaster, the entirety of the Greater Norwich area, Anglian Water is holding up the delivery of tens of thousands of houses. And this is an infrastructure bill. And so the unintended consequence, well-meaning, and I accept everything the noble Baroness has said about, well, this is in the Water Act, and I accept for smaller schemes this is it. But if we're going to have an infrastructure bill, we need to remove the excuses for the sewage treatment companies and the water undertakings to invest in that most basic infrastructure. It's like we're going back to the days before Chamberlain in Birmingham, Bazalgette here on the embankment in London. Look, we spent ages on the water bill, and there is widespread concern about sewage discharge, but these sewage discharges are only going to be solved if we hold the water companies' feet to the flames, we get them to invest, and just saying, oh, well, it's a bit difficult, we're not going to invest, and therefore you can't build houses, and therefore you can't get the economy moving, is a real problem. So, in summary, I think we need to make sure that we take into account that SuDS has a role for smaller schemes, but we should not allow the pressure to be taken off the large companies for the big schemes, the schemes that will deliver the homes this nation needs, get roofs over people's heads, because otherwise we're never going to meet the targets, as it is in the Times today, or yesterday rather. There's questions about whether we're even going to get halfway to delivering the housing targets, let alone all the way.